This is the Hub on Hollywood. I'm James.
I'm Jamie, and
And we
we
love
love
movies.
movies. And you have watched a big film, James, that we're going to be reviewing today. A little something called No Time to Die.
That's right. We
It's
have
double oh
plenty of time.
07.
Plenty of time to review this film. We got an early screener for the film that comes out this Friday on the 8th. I believe it's the 8th. And so, what do I think? What does James Rojas, think of No Time to Die? We will be reviewing that. We're also talking to a local or a New England local actor, director, producer, right?
Correct. Right. He's a jack of all trades, also a journalist. He's done a little bit of everything. He's got movies. He's got a docu-series in the work. We're going to be talking to Rick Dumont, and having a very interesting conversation with him. And speaking of interesting conversations, James
Very.
and I think, are going to be butting heads here. We're going to be fighting each other on some Kylo Ren Star Wars new trilogy news,
Yeah.
that we're going to be trying to iron out the details here. And I'm going to try to talk James off the ledge so that he doesn't like jump off a building if this is actually true.
Kylo Ren just won't stay dead. He's dead.
No, he's always alive in our hearts and probably in the world between worlds, but we'll get to that conversation. We'll get there.
Yeah, we will also get to casting calls and, of course, what we are watching. But what you should be watching is No Time to Die. James Bond, Daniel Craig, in his final role, in his final reprisal of James Bond. And it's crazy to think how long Daniel Craig has been James Bond for.
How long has it been? It's
Uh,
over
I
10 years,
believe,
right?
yeah, for about 10 years. And so it's amazing. It's come to an end in No Time to Die. Getting right into it, my overall review of the film is I really enjoyed No Time to Die. It isn't a perfect movie, but it's a very good James Bond movie and a very good way to send off Daniel Craig. I would put this movie right behind Casino Royale in my Daniel Craig James Bond movie list in the
Okay.
row if I had to place an order. But I do recommend this film. Basically, the story follows James Bond. He has left active service. His peace, however, is short-lived when Felix Leiter, an old friend from the CIA, he turns up to ask Bond for help, and it, of course, puts Bond on the trail of a mysterious villain armed with dangerous new technology. Like I said, we have Daniel Craig reprising his role for the final time as James Bond.
Oh my gosh, Daniel Craig.
Yeah. Leah Seydoux, she plays Madeline, Bond's love interest in the film. Rami Malek, who is, a force of nature in it of himself. He plays the main villain, Lutsider Savin. I think I'm mispronouncing that, but all you have to know is that he's playing the villain. Ralph Fiennes, he's playing M. Anna de Armas, she's Paloma in this film. And Christoph Waltz, he plays Blofeld, who you may remember from Spectre. But like I said, I really did enjoy this film. Not the best movie, but a very good James Bond movie. This is also one of the most emotionally heavy James Bond films so far, and it's definitely the most vulnerable that James Bond has been in. Yet at the same time, the strongest that we've seen Bond. The movie is an action film, but it's also a film about how someone is able to forgive themselves, forgive others, come to terms with where they are in life, and putting a spotlight on the hopes of the future. Some pros in this film: James Bond puns are throughout the film. They're excellent. They're kind of like the dad jokes, but they hit their mark. The action, the stunt work is excellent. I will say, however, there isn't. I wouldn't say there's one sequence that really defines this movie or stands out. Unlike in Casino Royale, where you have the parkour intro in the beginning of the film and then the airplane fight scene. Again, a lot of great action, but unfortunately not one that I could say that really stands out. So that's a little con to it. Again, speaking about the strengths, Anna de Armas, she plays Paloma, the CIA operative, but despite not being in the film that very long, her character is very memorable, and you actually want to see much more of her, and it makes you curious if there could be a spin-off of some sort. But Anna de Armas, even though she has very little screen time, her impact in the film is strong and it is memorable.
But she's a very great actor, a very great actor, very great actress. We've talked about her in the past, also Cubana, and yeah, well, I just love her. She shined in Knives Out,
Reuniting with
and
Daniel Craig.
reuniting with Daniel Craig on this one because she worked on that together with him as well. So it's very nice to see them. My question for you, James. So we've talked about Daniel Craig's range before, and do we see that on screen here? Do we get a little bit of everything of Daniel Craig and sort of his farewell 007 performance?
I definitely do, and did see that while watching the film. I know he's been doing his press tour, and he himself has gotten very emotional. There was even this behind-the-scenes footage that was shot on the last day of filming, where he's speaking to the entire crew, and he gets very emotional, saying goodbye and saying, how much of these films have meant to him, and not only in his professional life but in his personal life, and you can really feel that emotion come out in this film. Like I said, one of the most emotional films for James Bond, but at the same time, he's at his strongest in this film. And so, even though you are seeing a very emotional Bond, that doesn't take away his character, and it really does show how far the character has grown from Casino Royale to No Time to Die. Now, one of the weaknesses, the few weaknesses of this film that I will say, unfortunately, is Rami Malek's character was a little underwhelming. Now, he started off very strong in the opening scenes. However, his later appearances are they're pretty tense. Every scene that he's in, you're very tense. However, I never felt that I saw that explosion. Like, when things are building up, building up, building up, eventually you expect a kaboom somewhere
Yeah.
from that character. I think they may have underutilized Rami Malek. He's a very talented actor. And so I feel like the character could have been, I don't know, elevated a little bit more. You understand where he's coming from and why he's doing what he's doing. But again, there wasn't that explosion that I was hoping to feel. Again, throughout the whole movie, you're tense whenever he's on screen talking to people, and you're waiting for that moment to happen. But for me, at least, I didn't really see that happen. This film is also heavily reliant on, I would say, exposition. If you haven't seen the rest of the previous films, maybe just recently, you might get a bit lost with the characters that they bring back. Like, okay, why is this guy important? Christoph Waltz, I know he's the bad guy from the other film, but what role is he playing exactly now? And so a few minor tidbits. This movie is 2 hours and 43 minutes long. I would say that you could have cut a little, maybe 10 minutes off, and done a little more character work with Rami Malek's character. But other than that, like I said, not the best movie, but a very, very good James Bond movie. I think it hits all the marks. I feel like Daniel Craig did a great job, and it was the excellent send-off for Daniel Craig and his character, his version of James Bond. So overall, I really did enjoy it. I wouldn't say it felt long. I would just say that there were things that could have been cut short. But the movie is very fast-paced. The action scenes are incredible, though, like I said, not one that jumps out immediately. But overall, I think it's a good film. I think it was a good choice to have it released into theaters only at this time. So if you do want to see it on the big screen, if you do feel comfortable at this time wherever you are, I recommend watching this in theaters.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Okay, well, that is a very positive review. No spoilers. That's
No
great and
spoilers, yeah.
meaningful. And yeah, oh, it's gonna be just I think part of the emotion too is just as an audience member knowing that this is the last time we're gonna see Daniel Craig in that role. So that's great, James. I can't wait.
So while one character is being put to rest, another character, I'm
He's being
told,
brought back
is...
from the dead.
Explain this to me, please.
Okay, okay, all right, here we go. Here we go. Are you ready, James? Are you
I'm
ready?
ready.
Okay. So there are a few reports that are floating around online. This is nothing definitive. This is nothing that has been confirmed, but we know that there is going to be another Star Wars trilogy in production. Um, we're not sure if this is the Ryan Johnson one. There was another one that was supposed to go to the producers of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but then for one reason or another, they dropped out of the project. So we're not exactly sure which trilogy this is in referring to. But according to reports from Talk Disney, they're saying that it's going to be a Ben Solo focused trilogy that is in the works, starring Adam Driver, bringing him back. So the question is this going to be a prequel, which there has been a little bit of talk about, whether we're going to get a prequel to the sequel trilogy and smush it in the middle because nothing in the Star Wars universe is chronological. So are we going to get to see, his descent into the dark side and more details about everything that happened with Luke?
We're going to see Darth Sidious pretend to be Snoke, pretend to be Darth Vader in Kylo Ren's head. Is that what we're going to see?
It's just ridiculous. But according to the report from Talk Disney, it could be a sequel. It could be the resurrection, the bringing back of Kylo Ren / Ben Solo at this point. Ben Solo back as a character, and I am here for it 100%. I need it to happen, and this is why. Okay, I'm gonna give my little argument. Okay, and I'm gonna give you time to rebuttal.
Okay.
So James, here we go. Okay, at the end of the last movie, Ben Solo dies, and it is the travesty of travesties. We have this complete story arc of this incredible character who is the son of heroes. He's the son of Leia and Han Solo, and they were not great parents. He was manipulated and tormented in his mind by Snoke his entire life, and drawn down into the dark side by all of this manipulation of his family over time. And at the end, he redeems himself. He brings himself back to the light. He comes to Rey, who is the other half of the dyad, who is his soulmate, or the other part of this one, being light and dark. And they just kill him. They yeet him off a cliff, and he's dead at the end. And it's just absolutely ridiculous because there has never been, and I've said this before, there's never been a character, a plot point, an interesting story with so much potential that was so utterly and completely wasted. James, wasted. And there's just so much there. Did you see the fight at the end where he's got the lightsaber, where she passes the lightsaber through their special connection and he fights all of these guys and he's got that Han Solo swagger? Like, there's just so much potential there for an amazing character that I want to see so much more of. And it's not just because Adam Driver is hot, even though he is, but I want to see that Ben Solo character. He deserves to live. He deserves to be saved. We deserve to see the Ben Solo stories of him brought back to the light, and him and the Dyad and Rey trying to fix the galaxy together and making Jedi babies. Now it's your turn, James.
Oh goodness, where do I start? That's always a lot. That's a lot. It's always a lot. Yeah, so I guess in theory you have to bring back Daisy Ridley as Rey of some sort. Do you expect this? I don't. If this is real, if this does happen, I don't imagine a live action. I imagine something animated. I feel like Disney, with like Disney Plus What If, like you bring back the actors, you bring back the character voices and everything, and you can tell a story that way. It's a lot less money. And again, with The Rise of Skywalker leaving a very sour taste in people's mouths, I wonder if they're willing to put down so much money to create a live action film or a series for Disney Plus or whatever. So if this were to happen, I would imagine that it would have to be animated. I do like the what if style that they're doing with the Marvel animated series, and so I do like the animation style. So maybe we'll see more of that. Yeah, again, The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker, me personally, as a huge Star Wars fan, it left me very disappointed. And so I am okay with letting those characters lay and rest. Don't wake up a sleeping dog. And so that's where I'm at. I'm ready for the future of Star Wars. So bring me more Mando, bring me more Boba Fett, which they released, I guess, a projected release date for the Book of Boba on Disney Plus. I want to see that. I'll see more of that stuff. But for that story, the trilogy, I'm okay with putting that to rest. So I'm up for more, more adventures of other characters that we haven't seen, or maybe we have seen but not that much of, in other parts of the galaxy. And I think that's a good direction for Disney to take. Stop bringing up the past. Like in The Last Jedi, let the past die. That's where I stand. I love, and I do not want to knock your passion for it and your hopes for it, because you're not alone. There are many other people that want to see these characters come back and receive the justice that they deservedly deserve. But at the same time, I'm at that point where the battle's been lost. The battle's been lost. Let's move on to the next conquest. But again, I do appreciate your passion, because again, us Star Wars fans, we are very passionate. From either those who think the original trilogy should have been untouched and nothing should have come before or after, to those who are in the prequel camp who think, and there are many things to love about the prequels. And so, I don't know. Star Wars, the universe is very vast. The fan base is very vast. And so I think there's a space for everybody. So if they were to bring back Kylo Ren or Ben Solo in this case, why not? Why not? I'm not sure if I'll be watching.
I appreciate your take. I appreciate your feelings. So what do you guys think? What do you
Let
guys
us know.
think? Do you think this has any credibility? What would you like to see? Do you want Ben Solo to be alive, or do you like James, like, you know what, let's just move on from here? There's so many other stories to tell. Both are valid feelings and thoughts. So we just want to see what you think, and we'll give you a shout out after this. We'll see what the future has in store for that. James, thank you for that conversation.
So let us know what you think. Comment down below. If you are watching us on YouTube, please, thank you very much. Give us a subscribe, give us a like, give us a share, comment down below, join the conversation. You can also follow us on any of the major podcasting streaming services, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and we're also on social media, Facebook, Instagram, at Hub on Hollywood, also on Twitter. So give us a follow. We'll give you a shout out. Spread the love. Thank you so much. But we're going to spread the love by letting you know where you can end up in front of the camera. And so let's go right into our casting calls. And if you don't mind, I could just jump right into CP casting. CP casting, we're looking for African-American boys ages 11 through 15 for a principal role. This is actors looking for a principal role in a Disney movie filming this fall in Rhode Island. So if you are an African-American boy between 11 and 15 years old, you yourself or your parents, email your information, your name, phone, height, date of birth, where you live, recent photos, acting resume if you have one. Send all that to pocuscasting@gmail.com so you can bet this is for Hocus Pocus 2, the sequel they are filming in Rhode Island. So pocuscasting@gmail.com.
Okay. Let's see here. So as soon as this loads up. Boston Casting, I believe it is. No, actually, Sugar Plum Christmas is the name of the project. And it's Red River Casting is looking for background actors for this Hallmark television movie, made for TV movie called Sugar Plum Twist. They're going to be filming in Eastern Connecticut. So they're looking for, people in the New England region, but maybe closer to Eastern Connecticut who want to be a part of this. If you are interested and available and willing to drive there, you're going to want to send your name, phone number, email address, age, location where you're based, your SAG ID number, and a photo of yourself to booking@red-river.com for that one.
So this next one is pretty interesting. Boston Casting, their slogan for this casting call is, "Are you ready to come out?" So this appears to be looking for people in the LGBTQ community who play a sport or a member of a club. This is it's described as an aspiring new docuseries, which will have experts and counselors guide you through your journey if you plan on coming out. So if you want to submit a 1 to 2 minute video of yourself, your name, what sport or club you play in or are a part of, and why you want to come out, send that information to gamefacecasting@gmail.com.
Okay. And Boston Casting is looking for short people. They're looking for little people like me. If you are between the heights of 4'7" and 5 foot, male or female over the age of 18, Boston Casting wants to hear from you for a film opportunity. You're going to want to send your height, your name, your phone number, your email address, and a couple of recent pictures to Boston Casting Submit 8@gmail.com.
Boston Casting also looking for female golfers. They're looking for somebody between 30 and 40 years old for a biopic. You preferably should be a right-hand swinger. This is shooting in Rhode Island next month on the 28th, October 28th and the 29th, and pays $1,200. So if you are a female golfer, 30 to 40 years old, who wants to be in a biopic, and you got a good, wicked good right-hand swing, send your headshot, swing video, handicap details, contact information. Send all that to Boston Casting Submit 5, the number 5, @gmail.com.
All right. And also with Boston Casting, feature film is looking for vintage cars between 1955 and 1972 for a project that is shooting in and around Devons and Ipswich, starting this month into November. So you're going to want to send a picture of yourself and your car, the make, model, year, color, and contact information to Boston Casting Submit 3 @gmail.com for that one.
I think we should be getting paid by Boston Casting because we are throwing out all these casting calls. This next one is, of course, Boston Casting. They're looking for experienced runners for a photo shoot. So if you're 20 to 26 years old, men running shoe size 9 with a women's running shoe size of 7, you are asked to send your information to Boston Casting Submit 5 @gmail.com. You should include your photo, running experience, how often you run, how far you run, when you started, your contact info, shoe sizes. Send all that to Boston Casting Submit 5 @gmail.com. This is shooting on October 18th, and it is a paid gig.
Mm-hmm. And that's all we've got for you today, James. So if you are listening or watching, we bring you these casting calls every week because we want to get you on film. It's such an amazing experience, being a background actor, or being a principal, or if that is what you are into, or if you want to spend the day with like Jennifer Lawrence or Leonardo DiCaprio. That's what we're here for. We're here to do that for you. And today we had a really interesting conversation, James. We brought in a friend of mine. His name is Rick Dumont, and he has been a background actor for 11 years. He has been a part of some really incredible projects. He's also produced, started, directed his own films, one that just recently won an award, and he's creating a true crime docuseries, and we talk about all of those amazing projects with Mr. Rick Dumont. So we're going to share that with you now. All right, guys, so we are sitting down here with Mr. Rick Dumont, who is a journalist, background actor, writer, and a bunch of other things. So, Rick, you're primarily based here in New England. We love talking about all the movies that are made here. Why don't we just start off with like some of the coolest projects that you've been a part of?
Well, certainly, I was saying this actually last week, as a matter of fact, that after spending the 5 nights that I spent on the can we even talk about the movie title?
You can't.
Yeah, no. So
about the one that you were on recently.
The one that I was on most recently was one of the most fun experiences I've had in the 11 years that I've been doing this. Specifically, it's really just an amalgam of everything that I've done, the people that I've met, and some of the experiences. I mean, as a background actor, we do what some people might consider to be mundane things or not acting, which I argue against all the time, is that we are, even though we're not necessarily speaking as a background actor, we are acting and we are filling a part of the story, filling in part of the story. I mean, what I think most telling would be, I was on Olive Kittredge several years ago when they were filming out in Rockport, and I got paired up with this older couple. I was much younger then, but it was a very, very, very distinguished older couple. The wife had read all the books, and they lived in Rockport, and she just was in love with the whole story and wanted to be involved. when they came out to shoot. So she got it, somehow wrangled her way into being a background actor, and dragged her husband along with him. And he was miserable, sitting for 6 hours, just absolutely not happy at all. He's like, I'm never doing this again. This is ridiculous. But then they paired us up in this restaurant scene, and we're sitting there, and I said, okay, we need to define who we are. Why are we together? Because we're so different. I mean, me with my long hair and younger, and they're being very dapper. And I said, okay, what, they're never going to tell us who we are as characters. As you're a background actor, like you're a townsperson. Okay, there's your thing, and go. And you have to kind of develop things yourself, in keeping with the whole theme of whatever scene you're in. And I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm your layabout nephew, and you guys are my rich aunt and uncle, and I have all these crazy cockamamie business ideas that I always come to you guys with, trying to hit you up for money. And this is one of my pitches. This is why we're at this restaurant together, is that I'm trying to get money from you again. And they were like, oh, okay, yeah, let's do that. So we started doing it, and I'm just talking, we're miming, and I'm like, this is a great business idea, uncle. You got to contribute money to this, and it's phenomenal, blah, blah, blah. The whole time, the old man just sat there going, with a big smile on his face. And it brought him
into
some
it.
joy, to create this thing, and realize that it can be fun.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, we have our casting calls that we have every week that we bring to people. What is it like to be a background actor on set? What can you expect when you get there? I know it's a lot of hurry up and wait. So why don't you tell us your experience? What do people need to know about if they want to be a background actor and go work on a movie?
Well, I'll say this is one of the things I say to new people all the time, is that if you get the least bit annoyed, frustrated, bored by sitting for 5, 6, 10 hours a day, then this is not your world, because it can be extraordinarily slow paced, because production itself, I mean, they have to take time to set lights and set cameras and set this and set, and do the set deck and everything else. And it can take hours upon hours for them to come to you and go, okay, you're in, come walk the street sidewalk, or sit in that car and be frozen, or sit in a restaurant and pretend to eat, or whatever. And so that aside, what I've found as a background actor, and it has helped in my film production world as well, on the other side of the camera, is the networking is insane. I mean, the people you meet, like you and I meeting, the happenstance of that, and it was just it's absolutely magical. The connections you can make with people, especially if you want to go in this career path as an actor, as a back, if you want to be a working background actor, you can certainly do that. Not necessarily in New England, but definitely in New York and LA and other places where there's much more production. But there's that networking. It's like going to film school. You're watching the professionals, these DPs and PAs, all these people setting cameras, and how they're lighting, and what they're doing to diffuse the sun, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's like going to film school in a sense, because you're watching all this and learning, how to do a stunt. I mean, there was one, it was, what was it? Sex Tape? Was that the name of the movie? With, they were doing this stunt where we were filming at Everett High School, the old Everett High School, and one of the actors had to fall off a balcony onto the floor below, and they set up these giant cardboard boxes. So the guy, when he fell off the ladder, they attached a ladder to the balcony, so he was a little bit higher and a little bit out, so he wasn't going to fall on. And just watching how they set that stunt, it's like, oh, you incorporate that and go, okay, this is something, if I ever get to that point where I need a stunt like that, this is how I can do it. Or at least start the process of knowing what you're talking about when you want to design something like that.
Right, and the stars that you get to see too, you get to learn from them, from their
yeah, absolutely. Oh God, yeah, and watching their
and
performances. Yeah, I mean, one of my ultimate goals in life as a background actor or as an actor is to get on set with James Spader. Because I really admire him and Blacklist and everything else that the guy's done. But I just want to watch him and how he gets into character and how he brings that character of Reddington forward in his show. And hopefully, I'll get on it before they wrap production.
So are you able to actually enjoy the movies that you've been in when you're watching it, or are you just too engrossed in the background or in the behind the scenes of stuff that you remember?
It's interesting. I mean, yes and no. I can enjoy it, although I do, like, not necessarily on the first review of a film, but I definitely will be watching more of the background to go, oh, do I know that person? And it's not so much looking for me, because I don't, that's whatever, but watching for people that I know and going, oh, look at that's how, and this is how the overall scene that I was in played out and looks on screen. I do a lot of that, and I've always been a film critic, like going way back to my not childhood, but early years. Actually, my friend and I in high school, we used to call ourselves Siskel and Ebert Jr. And we would go to movies and we'd watch the movies, but then come out and then we'd review them and really break them down, analytically, from not so much from the lighting and the camera angle stuff, because we weren't really caring so much about that, but the storyline and the acting, and we would really be critical, learn to critique films in that sense. And then as a journalist, I did a lot of that too, mostly from theater, but definitely. So it's been a forever thing in that analysis of film.
So tell us about, you won an award recently. Can you explain what's going on there? And congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was quite a surprise. The Shawnee Film Festival, that's produced by a very dear friend, a guy I respect and admire very much, Skip Shea, out in Worcester area. He started this film festival in memory of his daughter, and 10 years ago, actually 10 years is next year, it will be 10 years that he's had this festival. And I submitted my film Fraternitas to him for screening, and it got in, which was an honor to begin with. And then I got word last Saturday night that it won, or I guess I could say it won for best screenplay, best New England screenplay. And my leading lady in the film, Diana Porter, won for best New England actress.
Nice.
So it picked up a couple of awards at that, yeah. And it was,
great.
to me, it's one of those film festivals, or the only film festival outside of the Tribecas and Toronto and Sundance and Cannes and all the huge ones. Really most meaningful.
So where can people catch it if they want to watch it?
It's not yet quite available for public viewing. It's currently sitting on Vimeo, but I'm hoping to either get some sort of like Amazon lined up or something, or end up just releasing it publicly and just go throw it up on YouTube or Vimeo and just going, hey, watch it if you want to, kind of thing.
And sorry, you mentioned that you were a journalist,
yes.
and journalist turned actor, and then that leads us into your next project that you're I guess literally building up right now, right? Can you tell me, because we saw the first episode, but can you tell me about this new project and a little bit of what transitioned you from being a journalist to an actor?
Yeah, it's something. Back in the day, in the 2000s, I actually was kind of acting simultaneous to being a journalist. I was just starting out as an actor and a filmmaker, and it wasn't until a year or so ago, give or take, that it dawned on me, and this is what 14, 15 years later, that I realized that three of the things in my life, my biggest careers, if you will, as a journalist, I was a police dispatcher for a long time too, and now as a filmmaker, that I should be combining all three of those things into a film project. So my time, what I did was I kind of took my time as a crime reporter, investigative reporter, and started to build this true crime series based on my experiences as a crime reporter and a police dispatcher at the same time as I was a crime reporter. So it was kind of a interesting little twist
Mhm.
to
So you're putting this together into a documentary, right?
yeah, it's a docu-series. Yeah.
A
Yeah.
docu-series. So can you tell us a little bit about what folks can expect from this docu-series, what some of the episodes are about?
Maybe some juicy crime stories, right?
Yeah.
Well,
True crime is big.
first and foremost, it's a kind of especially in this day and age, one of the things that when I was a journalist, I held very, very dear to me was the idea of ethics in journalism. And as a journalist, to not editorialize when you're telling a story, when you're writing a story, or for the on-air people or radio people, to not editorialize, that you are the eye on the story, not the story. And I'll tell you, there were a couple times that I actually became the story too as a reporter. If I could spin to the side for a minute, as memory comes up, I remember how this is not to do as a reporter is. I was at a watching at a school board meeting one night, and the school board was just bandering on and on and on about just some incessant ways to spend or not spend, and me and the only in attendance were me and this other reporter from another newspaper, and we're sitting there going, this is ridiculous. The answer is obvious, like what they should do, like how to reconcile whatever their problem was. And at one point I was like, hey, can I ask you guys a question? And they're like, okay, sure. And I said, why don't you do X? And they kind of went, well, and then they kind of just went back to their business. The next day in the paper, the other paper, the National Telegraph, the reporter had written me into the story saying, yeah, Rick Dumont asked this question, da, 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 da. And my editor pulled me aside and goes, no. You
So sometimes there is a fine line where you do have to, as a reporter myself also, there is a fine line where you have to be objectively honest with a scenario. And if your question was objectively honest, saying, why don't you do this? There's no difference than asking that same question at a press conference.
Exactly.
Yeah. So not to,
but it wasn't a press conference situation. So
right,
it was
right.
kind of like not like we're just, I guess, supposed to sit there and watch as opposed to, and it was, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. So Rick, there was a story that
this is going to be tough. We got 3 journalists like all.
Yeah. I know. You told me a story about how you accidentally stumbled into a crime scene.
Yes. There was an armed robbery of the McDonald's in Milford, New Hampshire, that and back when I was a crime reporter, I would carry a scanner with me, of course, and my camera, and hit the streets as soon as something broke, and chase off to try and get the hot shot, the arrest or whatever. And I was listening to the foot chase that was going on down the railroad tracks, and I'm trying to position myself out of the cops' way so that I was not going to be disruptive to what they're trying to do, their safety, etc., but also be close enough so that when they did finally catch the guy, I was going to be right there to get the picture of them getting the cuffs on the guy. And what happened was I like the train tracks were here. I was on the street side, and I was on a side of a building, blocking myself from the tracks, but kind of watching what was going on as they were pushing forward. And from behind me, so I'm standing there watching the police chief move his way slowly down the train tracks, and from behind me, I hear this voice saying, "Put your hands up and turn around slowly." And I'm like, okay. And I turned really, really slowly, and there was a cop standing behind me with his gun drawn on me. And he looks at me, looks at my camera, and goes, that's a good way to get shot. And then he runs down the tracks. And about, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds later, one of the Milford cops that I knew comes running by. He's like, "Hey, Rick." And he just kept running because he knew I was not a harmful person. The other guy did not, because he had no idea who I was. And a little bit later on, the chief, after they got the arrest and I got the picture and everything else, the chief had called me, and he's like apologizing for this rookie's drawing on me like that. And I'm like, dude, it's not a problem. He had no idea who I was.
Mhm.
I'm standing and watching this manhunt. He has no clue who I am. So I don't begrudge him, taking his gun out and going, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
Is that going to make the cut in the docuseries?
it might.
So then where
But-
are you in the process for the docuseries? So what's happening now? What happens next?
We're currently in development. We've crafted, pitch documents and video and informational video, which was very interesting. You two should try this at some time, especially because having been journalists or are journalists, is I had to interview my editor to talk about me as a reporter.
Mhm.
So, and have him talk in third person, or we both were talking in third person about me, and having to listen to him.
Sounds trippy.
Yeah, it was awkward too, because I mean, I kind of thought that he respected me as a journalist because he kept me on so long, but some of the things that he said were actually made me tear up. How much he praised me, which was kind of, again, one of those like kind of awkward, like, "Oh, geez,
Yeah.
are you really saying that about me?"
You have to be careful in
Kind
the
of moments.
questioning too, because I could see myself saying to if I were to interview my boss, "So how great is
Am I?
James?" Keep going on about how great
Right?
James is. No, that's awesome. That's great. So what's something that you learned far?
But
Go ahead.
to finish answering the question, sorry, about what the show kind of focuses on, but the ethics in journalism is the key. Like how to be a reporter, how to be a quality reporter, and a little bit of commentary, because I don't want to go too off of what the subject is, but to comment on how in today's world, and going all the way back to the 80s, really is when it kind of started to spin. The media started to go a little bit awry with their commentary, and was Don Henley or Glenn Fry who wrote the song "Dirty Laundry," where he was making social commentary on what was happening in the media, the glamorization of violence or death, or one of the lines in the song is, you got the bubbleheaded bleach blonde that comes on at 5 that can tell you about the plane crash with a gleam in her eye. That commentary, and you see it today in a lot of media today, where these pretty people are making comments and about something, and even something as ridiculously as innocuous as being at a plane crash, and the reporter saying, "Thankfully nobody died." To me, that's not the reporter's job. It's to say, James says, "Thank you, thankfully nobody died," not me as the reporter. That's not my job to tell you how to think. It's my job to go, here's one side of the story, here's the other, you guys figure it out. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I always perform. That's been my criticism of the media for 30 years. And so I'm kind of like touching on the fact that while there are certain media outlets out there, more national than probably local, that tend to skew their social political perspective into what they're doing, whereas as a local small town reporter, that's not what you do. You're right there telling the story, because you're dealing with these people every day, and if you really irk them, they're not going to ever talk to you. So it was just a fascinating thing, and from the perspective of, I mean, you can see me, Hawaiian shirt, long hair, getting in with the cops, and having these police departments really open themselves up to what I was doing, what I wanted to know about what they were doing, and understanding it from the police perspective because I was a dispatcher for a long time. And they're trusting me to not expose them, but also knowing that when they screw up, I'm going to drop a hammer on them and publicize it and not let go until the truth comes out or some sort of correction is made within that police department. And there are a couple stories about that as well that may make it into the series.
Okay.
Excellent. And
So,
what's the stage of the docuseries right now? Because you have one. Was the first episode that we saw an introductory or is it episode one?
No, that what you guys saw was an informational piece that we're going to be providing to potential money people, investors, those that want to climb on board to help us get the pilot funded so that we could shoot the pilot hopefully in the spring. Is what I'm thinking right now. Is probably springtime we'll shoot the pilot and then start to bring that out to the Amazons, the IDs, the MTVs, the Netflixes of the world, History Channel, Learning Channel, whatever, whoever wants it. We'll entertain a conversation and say, yeah, can we make it work?
Well, best of luck to you on that.
Yeah, there are so many streaming services nowadays that's the great thing about the streaming wars is that people are looking for things to put on. And with a story like this, with the background and your history as a journalist, I think that's definitely something that people would find interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's certainly, I found it interesting, but no, I think people will, because true crime is one of those things that seems to be really, really hot today. I mean, it's all over the place. My wife is a huge consumer of true crime stories. Arguably, she's trying to figure out a way to get away with killing me, I think is what she said. But no, it's definitely, it's fascinating to watch these documentary news story segment things and see all this stuff. And so just having the couple 5 or 6 different twists that our kind of projects brings to the table is hopefully something that people will also appreciate.
Well, Rick, thank you for sharing all of this with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
A message or advice for anyone who's got all of these like interesting ideas rattling around in their heads and wants to do something about it?
Yeah, do it. Write it down. I mean, it's something. Never let anybody tell you that you can't do something. You are an artist. We are artists in this realm of film production and acting and things like that. That an artist's thing is you have to create. You have to put whatever's in your head on a canvas, capture it in a photo or draw it or write it down, or poetry or screenwriting or whatever, is get it out of your system and tell the story in whatever milieu you're doing it in, and just do it. And at some point, especially in the film world, there will be people who you'll find them who like your idea or want to be part or want to help you to build the idea into something. And philosophically, for me, what I've always espoused is that for me as an actor, if someone has a project that they feel that my look, my talent, or whatever my skill set is, would be beneficial to their project, I'm all about getting involved. And conversely, if someone sees something about my project that I have going on and feels like, oh my God, this is interesting, I want to help, I want to get involved, then absolutely come on board. Let's figure out a place and let's make it happen.
Where can people find you?
Well, I have a website called sweatyturtle.com. That is where all of the work or a lot of the work that we're doing and have done is there. On Instagram I just switched it from Sweaty Turtle to Rick G. Dumont, is where I do a lot of postings and updates and stuff like that. Facebook, Bricky Dumont. Bricky is my given name for my inherited daughter back in the day. But Instagram is probably biggest thing, or the website.
Great. It's always great catching up with Rick. And if you have an amazing story to share with the Hub on Hollywood, reach out to us. We want to hear from you. We love cool people. We're cool people. Let's hook up and talk about cool things.
We're just a bunch of cool people over here, just acting cool, being cool.
Just hanging out, chilling.
Cool people say that, right?
Kind of. I don't know. I have 2 kids. I don't know what's cool anymore, James. But what else is cool is what we're watching. So what have you been watching, James?
So what I've been watching every week, every Wednesday for the past several weeks has been the What If series on Disney Plus, Marvel's What If, showing what if this happened? What if zombies invaded the MCU? What if Doctor Strange went mad and became an evil Doctor Strange? And most recently, the last episode, what if Ultron won? So Age of Ultron, the movie, of course, if you have seen it, again, spoilers for a movie that's been out for years now, the Avengers, of course, defeat Ultron, and by doing so, they create Vision. Vision was supposed to be like the organic body that Ultron was supposed to inhabit, and then he'll be practically unstoppable. Well, in this latest What If episode, that's exactly what happens. Ultron accomplishes his mission, not becomes Vision, but he embodies the body that would have become Vision, and then he becomes unstoppable, and he continues his conquest to create peace in any way he can, and by doing that is by killing everybody. And I won't spoil this last What If episode, but it is the best, I think, What If episode so far. And not only is this going to be obviously leading into part 2 of this is the first time that we may see a direct sequel from the last episode. Not only is this changing this entire series of the What If series, but the last episode may actually have real implications into the actual MCU world that we're watching right now, going into the multiverse. And so I don't want to give any spoilers away, but this is what an episode to watch. Even though it's 30 minutes long, like all the other episodes, this episode felt much longer. I had to go back because I thought it was a 40, 50-minute episode because there was so much going on. I didn't want to see it end, and then when it did end, I'm like, oh my god, this has real potential, real implications into the actual MCU world that we're watching in the theaters and on Disney Plus right now. So if you're not caught up on What If, what are you waiting for? Catch up.
Well, dang it, now I have to catch up, James. You've definitely sold me on that. What I'm watching is not as exciting as that, but
it may be exciting from what I've heard.
I am enjoying it. I am thoroughly enjoying it. So I'm continuing to make my way through Titans on HBO Max, which is part of the DCEU, and it take a look at all the young heroes in the DCEU and their coming of age. Oh my goodness, James. But really, what I'm really watching watching it for at this point is just Robin, the guy who plays Robin, eventually Nightwing. Brenton Thwaites is the name of the actor, and my goodness, I am all here for Mr. Thwaites.
He must be a great actor, right?
Oh yeah, it's all about the acting. Yeah, it's the acting. That's why I'm watching it. But look, it's just funny because so he plays Dick Grayson, Robin, and really what the show should be called is Dick Grayson and all the girls he's loved before. Because it is just like him hooking up with every hot girl in the show. It's so funny. It's like, and they even poke fun at themselves at one point. It's like, okay, his name is Dick Grayson, right? Everyone wants to D. Everyone wants to D. And it's like, oh my gosh, if this was just a show about Robin's love life, I'd be here for it. And it kind of seems like that's what it is. I mean, there's just a lot of violence in between. But he's just like this vulnerable little puppy dog. And he's like also very strong and wild. And
he's like a puppy dog, but he's also like a pit bull.
Something like that. It's ridiculous. I know, I'm being silly. But I'm
That's
enjoying
great.
it.
That's great. That's what the show's for, to be enjoyed, to be silly. I think it's hitting the mark.
I'm just saying I'd have his bat babies. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, what other reason do you need to watch Titans, apparently? No, that's great.
Not another reason.
It is on HBO Max.
It's on HBO Max, so it is what it is. Anyway, so what are you guys watching? What do you think of Titans? What do you think of What If? What else are you watching? Let us know, and we'll give you a shout out. So I think this has been a pretty full episode, James. We've hit everything. So until next week.
Until next week.
I'm just gonna go thirst some more over Restrict the Wait. So until then, I'm Jamie.
I'm James. All right. See ya.